What's up, guys? I'm Matt Reisinger.
I'm Whitt Smith.
And we're at Whitt's house under construction. Whitt is my structural engineer that does most of my work for my houses under construction. But Whitt is building his personal house. And Whitt, I gotta tell you, this is a bomber assembly. I really like this. What you're about to see is a CMU exterior, basically like a concrete house, right? That you're gonna stucco over.
Yes, sir.
And,
right.
and the look that we're going for, what would you call the style of this house, Whitt?
Well, our initial thought was, our main inspiration was the Spanish missions you see sprinkled across the southwestern United States, good number of them in Texas. But I've maybe come to find out this is more Cape Dutch than it is Spanish mission. I'm not an architect, so this was just kind of our family's idea of things that we had seen that we liked over the years. So maybe it's a mutt.
I love it. I love it. A mutt that's super durable, though. So what you're about to see, guys, we're going to run through all the details on how Whitt's done this. But I got to say, when it comes to stucco, this is probably the most durable, the most bomber house I've ever seen. Today's build show at my engineer's house. Let's get going. I like how you gave me the heavy one, Whitt.
I knew you could handle it.
So these are cinder blocks, nothing special, just a concrete masonry unit, hollow cells, but you've got two different sizes, and the house is surrounded like a big candy shell with nothing but CMU, right?
Yes, sir, that's correct.
So let's back up a second. If you saw our previous episode when we were out here, Whitt did Monopoly framing on the house, but a really smart and slightly different style of Monopoly framing, where the whole house basically has zip system sheathing that goes from the foundation to the ridge and all the way back down, fully taped, fully air sealed. The green facer of the zip is our water and air barrier. But instead of doing it in the typical Monopoly shape, you did something a little bit different where we've got like a 6-inch, or maybe 8-inch overhang on the non-gable sides of the house. What's going on with that?
Yeah, that's correct. So we wanted what oftentimes is thought of as really not a ideal building detail, because traditionally we would like a nice long overhang to protect the building. Mm-hmm. But with the look of the house we were going for, we really wanted no overhangs.
Yep.
So while we actually do have an overhang, we filled that space with these blocks. So
you've got 6-inch block at the overhang location. So basically right here, you've got 6-inch block that goes up, and this 6-inch block tucks right underneath the soffit. And what's the purpose of that?
Well, for one thing, it completes the look of the house. We are going to fully stucco on top of this, so that gives us a solid substrate to stucco to.
Yep.
And right now we're only talking about this end. We'll talk about the other end in a minute. But oftentimes we see people put a 4-inch CMU outside of their wood framing that they will stucco to.
My friend Brent Hall does that all the time. It's a great detail.
I really like it as opposed to just stuccoing directly to the wood. Even if you have some kind of WRB, I still always have concerns about having that reservoir cladding in contact with a wood wall.
Yeah.
So this separates those two. Now, what we did was a little different. Again, it's my own house, so I got to experiment a little bit. I don't know that I would experiment on another project, but what I was curious about here is if we could take advantage of the structural opportunities with CMU and use that with this wood house. So we went ahead and reinforced the CMU, and then at the top we have a bond beam condition.
And this is actually a bond beam specific CMU block, right?
Yep, that's
so
right.
It's got a big hollow spot. And then what happens at this bond beam?
So we came in here and we fully grout it. I said it backwards. We reinforce it, we grout it, and in addition to that, we had anchors that come out of the blocking in the wood roof trusses and are embedded into this.
Hey, for clarity, we popped in just to show you Whitt's plans on this building section here, because I wanted to try and make sure you guys understood what was happening. This is the internal framing, that's the insulated wall. This is that 6-inch CMU wall on the outside where we just were. And then you notice his trusses actually overhang the double top plate here by 6 inches or so, Whitt, is that right?
Yep, maybe 7. Mm-hmm.
And then this face of the framed wall got zipped for both water and air. This overhang right here on the basically sub-soffit got zipped. The fascia got zipped, and then the whole roof got zipped, and that's all continuous for air and water. But then we've got an anchor that comes through. Talk us through that anchor which is on this detail right here, Whit.
Yeah, this was the kind of experimental portion of this project because we satisfied all of our structural requirements with this framed wall. With our hold down, we called out a truss screw. They ended up using a hurricane tie, which you can use those, substitute one for the other. But that satisfied all of our code requirements for lateral bracing here. And now this, we were just trying to take advantage of this CMU so attaching it here, we have double blocking between the trusses. And then every 4 feet, we have these threaded rods that are embedded into this reinforced bond beam. So this provides our additional resistance to uplift, and it provides our lateral shear transfer between this roof diaphragm and this reinforced CMU wall.
And were these installed later, Whit, or were those installed during construction?
They installed them as they had scaffolding into different portions of the house. So the framers installed this blocking before they left the job, and then when the masons came in, as they have scaffolding set up at each location, someone will come in here and put this nut on the, they'll drill a hole, insert the threaded rod up in here, and someone will just reach in here and put this nut and washer on.
Gotcha. And now this is acting like a secondary hold down to double, in effect, what's happening here with that hold down.
Yes, sir, exactly. Right? So this provides resistance to uplift, and it provides shear resistance. In addition to the sheathing. I mean, the sheathing provides both of those things.
Yeah.
And the sheathing itself more than meets code. But again, this was a little bit of an experiment on my part. So we went ahead and used a slightly larger block that we could reinforce and connect to the wood framing.
So this 6-inch block, which is going from the foundation all the way up to the eaves and then is anchored to the eaves, is in effect holding the house down, also helping us with shear strength. I also think if you launched a 2x4 at this wall, like if we had a hurricane come through, that 2x4 would splinter up, wouldn't it?
I would think so. I mean, and there's always additional levels of protection you could do. So we didn't fully grout each cell. Mm-hmm. We reinforced and grouted every 4th cell.
Okay.
So
in other words, every 4th cell, this hole is lined up with the ones above, and then you've got rebar and then grout all the way through those?
Exactly.
So it's kind of like a concrete column every 4 feet.
Exactly.
Gotcha.
So if you were really, really, really looking at a projectile, let's say a 2x4 stud, 10 feet long, and a hurricane force wind, it might be able to punch through an open cell. So we weren't necessarily trying to resist that type of loading. Mm-hmm. But if that was something you were interested in doing, you could fully grout these, and then I'm certain it would withstand that type of load.
I mean, I think that's why I find this so fascinating, Whit, is we're kind of central Texas here, but if you're building in the coast, if you're building in Florida, if you're building in Tornado Alley, you could use what you've done here, which is standard construction practices. He built a monopoly framed, wood framed house, zip bar on the outside, nothing special. He used his normal framing crew. And then also he used a normal masonry crew, nobody who's particularly special, because this is really just a CMU veneer, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep,
There's nothing weird going on here. You're not noticing any special reinforcing that needs done or bracing on the outside, because you're using the wood building as the bracing, right? Mm-hmm. As you go up the wall.
Yeah, exactly. And not only that, the framing is actually the formwork too. So all of this CMU is self-supporting. So for example, this lintel you see over the door here,
yep.
It doesn't have a loose steel lintel below it like you would see in traditional masonry. So that is a reinforced lintel. That does carry the load.
So in other words, you basically have a bond beam above that door as well. A U-shaped piece of CMU that's fully grouted, has steel across here, a number 4 rebar, a 1/2-inch thick rebar that runs to the sides, and then the 2 sides are fully grouted columns as well.
Exactly. Now, where we have larger spans over roofs below, the framing for the house is actually the form, but it's not the long-term support. So the house was intended to support the masonry while it cures, and then once it cures, we designed these lintels. They're different. So this is only an 8-inch lintel or bond beam. Where we had longer spans, we went up to a 16-inch and a 24-inch, like over the garage door.
Gotcha.
So that's a self-supporting CMU lintel over that door. Now, it doesn't have wood framing to support it, but there are other areas that do. So to your point, this is a conventional house with trades that build any other similar project. This wasn't a specialty product that required a certified trade to come out of somewhere far away.
Yep.
And I think any local tradesman could construct this.
For sure. Now, we don't have just 6-inch though, Whit. You also have some 12-inch CMU blocks as well, and that's on this wall behind me. Explain what's going on here.
Yeah, this is really what prompted the CMU on this project in the first place, because we had this parapet detail that we were hoping to achieve, and we didn't want to do it with a metal flashing cap.
Yep.
So we had this detail in mind. We took it to the builder and his team and asked what they thought about it. And we said, we're trying to accomplish this with wood framing. Is there some way we can waterproof this that we can then stucco over and maintain this look? And the overwhelming consensus was that we could not. That would be a dangerous detail and we should stay away from it.
I can't tell you how many parapets I've seen that have leaks and rot and are a mess, because ultimately a parapet is a masonry detail that has been built for hundreds or maybe even thousands of years, that once we started wood framing, we're like, oh, we don't need all that masonry. We can frame this out of wood and waterproof it, which is possible, but it gets done wrong a lot.
Yeah, and it was a good comment. I thought it was good feedback. It's not exactly what I wanted to hear, but it's what I thought I was probably going to hear. Yeah. So then we went back to the drawing board to try to think of what other options. We didn't really want to abandon the design. And again, we're trying to work within traditional methods.
Yep.
You know, because usually if you can stick to traditional methods, that might mean you get more favorable pricing versus trying something that is a little bit out of the ordinary.
Sure.
So in this case, we came back around to this idea of perhaps just doing this all out of masonry. So we priced it, and it was more reasonable than I was expecting it to be. So the initial thought was we would just do each of the facades with this 12-inch masonry block. And then it eventually evolved into, well, if we're going to go that far, why don't we just take it and do it on these other side walls as well?
Makes a ton of sense. And if you fly the drone up there, you notice that's a solid cap on there. So it's a solid masonry top. So now when your stucco contractor comes, basically this whole house is going to get coated in stucco. You will have no idea that's CMU back there. People will walk up and think, oh my gosh, how old was this house built? 150 years ago? Did the Germans build this when they immigrated here? People will have no idea how old the house is. I really like that idea.
Yeah, thank you. That was part of the goal, was to try to make it not easily identifiable with a time period.
And if you look at, for instance, this Pella window here that has the round top, you're gonna notice how thick and how deep that jamb is, because now we have this 12-inch deep jamb. And if you check out our last video when Whit was explaining how he installed these with the steady set, he did an external buck to bring that window out just enough so that now he could basically stucco right next to it. Do you have a sill going in here, or what's the purpose of keeping this gap open?
Well, we're going to bring that stucco up. So we will slope the stucco to create the drainage. But
gotcha.
Yeah, so they left a little extra space just for that build up there.
I love it. Now, before the masonry went on, I noticed that you actually wrapped the whole house in the zip rain screen product. What's the purpose of that?
Our initial assembly was only to bring the rain screen up for the first course, which is 3 to 4 feet, just to protect this lower portion of wall. That's the portion we see most commonly damaged,
Yep.
you know, due to mortar buildup and water and those different types of things. I had some time to see that installed, and as I walked around and looked at it, I was just so impressed with the product that I began to wonder if we shouldn't go ahead and carry it on all the way up.
It makes sense.
We got pricing on it, and I'm just so happy we did. It's redundant, you know, so the zip by itself is a good WRB.
Sure.
But as I was just thinking about the process of installing the block, all of our wall ties, opportunities for masonry to get hung up on wall ties and be in contact with the sheathing, I began to think that the additional rain screen might be a good idea.
Really smart. Really smart.
Yeah.
Now, the other thing that I want to point out, that if you look at the drone footage from when we were here last time, with your parapet walls here, you did a double 2x4 on top of the roof. What was the purpose of that at this gable side right here?
That we did for roof flashing. So really what's going on up there is that's a 16-inch wide course. So when we get to the very top, we actually took the 12-inch block and turned it sideways. So what you're seeing up there is a 16-inch wide course, but it only bears on 12 inches of the CMU.
Okay.
So we had this small amount that we're actually cantilevering over the roof. So we built up a double 2x4 curb that we zip taped over, and then we came in with roof flashing on top of that. And once the final roof goes on, that will tuck up under that flashing.
So in other words, this isn't bearing any weight on the roof. It's really just a spot to put your metal roof onto. The whole house is getting a galvanized metal roof on the top?
Yes, sir, that's correct.
Yeah, I'm a big fan. I mean, if you think about this exterior, man, you're not gonna have to touch anything on the outside of this house for 100+ years.
We hope so.
It makes a lot of sense. I really like it. All right, Which, let's switch gears. We talked about the full masonry on the outside. Are these doors just going to be exposed? What's happening in the front of the house here?
No, we're going to come back and have a traditional porch. So we'll have CMU columns and a wood framed porch. This is the western side of the house, so these doors do get the most exposure. So these will be covered with a porch, and the porch is going to be attached to the CMU. So
not back to the wood framing, just to the CMU, because this is structural CMU.
Yeah, correct. So that was that wasn't an intended use, but as we kind of got into the detailing of it, we just saw that opportunity. So that's one more way to avoid penetrations back through the building envelope, ledgers, through wall flashing, all of those challenges. Again, we were trying to use this as an opportunity to simplify other things that are normally difficult. So by just having this porch roof only attached to the exterior.
So basically you could take a 2x and ledger it across here. And what's the attachment for that, from that wood to masonry connection look like?
Oh, I mean, it could be anything. I mean, an expansion anchor. I'm a fan of Titan HDs. That's a structural screw. It's a heavy-duty screw anchor.
It's a great product.
Or it could be an epoxy, an adhesive type threaded
And
stud.
does it matter if you go into an open cell, or did you grout specific cells for that attachment?
Yep, we grouted and reinforced the whole project. Again, a little bit of an experiment on my part. It was not necessary structurally, but on either side of all openings, they're grouted and reinforced cells.
Okay, so on both sides of the doors, this cell right here has been fully grouted.
Yes.
So if I just come up whatever distance I want to start that porch slope, I could use a Titan HD into that and have solid masonry anchor to, right?
Yep, exactly. And they also make products for anchoring into hollow masonry.
Okay.
Like an epoxy screen anchor, so we might do some of those in between.
Gotcha.
But there's good options for that.
But that's what's so fascinating about this is truly a structural, it's as if we have a concrete wall outboard of our framing that's like a Lego set. I mean, you don't need a special mason or somebody who's a real specialized sub doing anything different. This is really just a veneer of CMU on the outside that gets a stucco for aesthetics. If you wanted to, you could leave it like this too, right? If you want to do some modern design, the stucco is not providing anything except for an aesthetic look.
That's correct.
But I really, really like it. We could also lay this up with a 4-inch block if we're just looking for the durability aspect, but I love how you've added the structural aspect. Now, we didn't do anything special on our Pella package here, the great window and door package, but what I mean is you didn't do a hurricane rated window and door, right?
Right, these are not, but that's really all we lack for making this really a storm resistant house. I mean, I would say it's storm resistant as it sits.
Extremely.
But, if you went to a storm rated window, I'm trying to think if there's anything else. I think that's all we lack.
That's about all you need.
And this could, I would imagine, withstand a major hurricane or tornado, high wind event.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, if we have a storm, if we had a Miami-Dade County approved window and door package, that's really kind of all you need to add here if you were building coastal or if you're building in Hurricane Alley. But the other thing I like about this is you could build this anywhere in the U.S. This would also give you incredible fire resistance. If you're rebuilding in the Palisades, let's say, just make sure your window has a fire rated exterior. Like we wouldn't want a wood window, right? We like a clad window like this. And I suspect window manufacturers have some specialty products, including tempered glass for fire rated zones. But other than that, this house, there's nothing to combust on the outside. You might switch from wood framing on this roof to metal framing, let's say, but your metal roof is gonna be Class A fire rated. You also notice that he did a full peel and stick underlayment. That's the zip peel and stick underlayment. So if a roof panel were to blow off, he's got a continuous peel and stick down there. Plus, he can install his galvanized metal roof with a special fastening system that could get him up to very high wind rating. I don't know if you did specific calcs. Like when you designed this, did you go, I want my house to withstand a 200-mile-an-hour wind?
No, and luckily I wasn't charged with doing that. But you can imagine a situation where somebody would do that. Like let's say you're trying to satisfy some requirement at Miami-Dade.
Yeah.
They might want to see documentation on to back up the claim that it could withstand a Category 5 storm.
Yeah, you could do it.
So, but no, with this we did not. So again, the house itself exceeded code minimums for wind loading, with just the OSB sheathing.
He's definitely underselling that. It's way above code minimums.
So this is all additional to that. So again, we weren't necessarily trying to meet any specific standard, but it was a betterment thing where we thought, well, if we reinforce the CMU, it's better than if we don't. And it'll help crack control in the stucco and other things like that.
It's the durability that I love, though. I mean, this house is going to be around for literally hundreds of years. Joe Stiebrick had an article years ago he called The Perfect Wall, and I've kind of changed it to Monopoly Framing. This meets that standard. This house could easily be around 500 years from now.
One more thing I'm kind of been curious about as we've worked on it is I think you could actually use this system as a retrofit pretty easily to existing homes.
Yeah, I bet you could.
So it's not unusual for us to come into a project and add a masonry lug for veneer where there was not any previously.
Yeah.
And I think this could be something that could be adapted to existing structures.
That's right.
To retrofit them.
You could retrofit a 6-inch lug and do a 6-inch masonry veneer and then stucco it and change the windows at the same time and do an energy retrofit all on the outside.
Yeah, so.
Pretty fascinating.
Yeah.
Let's end with this. This was not an inexpensive detail. Whitt actually let the cat out of the bag with me, and I hope he doesn't mind me sharing. We can cut this if we need to.
No, I think it's important to share this information because discussing building ideas are only good if they're within reach.
If they're implemented.
Yeah, exactly. And if they're affordable. So you can have all the great ideas in the world, but if nobody can afford to use them.
So what was the rough cost over here by the foot? You don't need to give us the total cost.
This worked out to about $22 a square foot, which is similar to our foundation cost.
Yeah.
So, that's expensive. That's not cheap. But I think we got a lot of value for that money.
You did. And remember, those are costs for Texas, right? So it's going to change if you're in Connecticut or some other place, but under $25 a square foot for this amount of bomber exterior, I really like it. And like I said, there are lots of builders that are using CMU, like my buddy Brent Hall, in a smaller capacity, a 4-inch. I've even seen builders use standard brick and stucco over it to get that true like German immigrant Texas style stucco on the outside. So all Whitt's done is taken that concept and made it a little beefier and said, hey, if we're gonna do that, why not tie the house into it? I love what you've done here. I really appreciate you sharing with us, Whitt.
Thank you, Matt. I appreciate it.
Really good stuff. By the way, don't call Whitt. He's super busy with my company's work and lots of other companies. So he's amazing, but don't call him for your engineering work. Otherwise, he won't go on videos with me again because his phone does blow up sometimes when he's on these videos. Guys, I really, really appreciate it. Whitt's amazing. We're going to come back and do another video in the future about CMU best practice because I think Whitt taught me a lot here earlier. So stay tuned for that CMU video. Hit that subscribe button below. We've got new content here every Tuesday and every Friday. And oh, by the way, on thebuildshow.com, we're publishing like 20 new videos a week. So we have all kinds of great content for you to learn the basics of building science and really get a handle on how to build a well-built house. So that being said, Whitt, will you close it out for me? Follow us on Facebook or Instagram. Otherwise, we'll see you next time on The Build Show.